The coffee mug slipped from Emma's trembling hands and shattered across the diner floor. Her left eye was swollen purple, and a dark bruise covered half her pale cheek. She dropped to her knees to pick up the broken pieces, but her hands shook so badly she could barely hold them. Blood dripped from a fresh cut on her lip onto the white tiles. The Tuesday morning crowd pretended not to see her struggling on the floor. They all knew what happened to girls who got help in this town. They all knew about the Crimson Crew and what those 5 men did to anyone who stood against them. Emma wiped her tears with her sleeve and kept cleaning because she had no choice. She had no family and no friends and no one to call when the darkness came knocking. The diner owner, Mr. Peterson, looked away when she glanced up at him. Everyone always looked away. Isaiah Carter had seen a lot of terrible things in his 40 years of life. He served 2 tours overseas and watched good men fall in places most Americans couldn't find on a map. He earned his nickname Giant, not just because he stood 6 foot 7 inches tall, but because his heart was even bigger. After the military, he worked construction jobs across 15 states, never staying long because the memories followed him like shadows. 3 weeks ago, he rolled into the small town of Millbrook, hoping to find some peace in its quiet streets and friendly faces. He rented a room above the hardware store and found work at the lumber yard on the edge of town. Every morning he ate breakfast at Ruby's Diner on Main Street. He always sat in the corner booth where he could see the whole room. Old habits from the service never really die. That Tuesday morning he watched the young waitress with the bruised face drop the coffee mug, and his jaw tightened. He had seen that look before in the eyes of villagers who lived under the thumb of cruel men. He had sworn he would never look away again. Emma finally stood up with the broken pieces in her apron. She walked past Isaiah's table without looking at him. Her hands still shook as she poured coffee into his cup. Some of it spilled onto the saucer, but Isaiah didn't say anything. He just watched her carefully. Up close he could see more bruises on her arms. Purple and yellow marks that looked like fingerprints. His stomach turned. She was so young and scared and alone. When she turned to leave, he spoke in a gentle voice that didn't match his giant size. "Miss, you okay?" he asked. Emma froze. Her whole body went stiff. She didn't turn around. "I'm fine," she whispered, but her voice cracked. "Just clumsy today." Isaiah knew she was lying, but he didn't push. Not yet. He watched her walk back to the kitchen with her head down and her shoulders hunched, like she was trying to make herself invisible. The bell above the diner door rang, and 5 men walked in like they owned the place. They wore leather jackets and had tattoos crawling up their necks. The leader was a tall white man named Derek Vaughn, with slicked back blonde hair and cold blue eyes. Behind him came his crew: Jake, Tommy, Rick, and Brett. They were all between 26 and 32 years old, and they all had the same mean look about them. The Crimson Crew controlled most of the crime in Millbrook. They ran protection rackets and sold drugs and made life miserable for anyone who crossed them. The police couldn't touch them because Derek's uncle was the county sheriff. The whole diner went quiet when they entered. People stared at their plates. Mr. Peterson wiped the counter faster. Emma came out of the kitchen, and Isaiah saw the fear flash across her face. She looked like a rabbit that just spotted a wolf. Derek and his crew took the big booth near the window. They were loud and laughed too hard at jokes that weren't funny. Derek snapped his fingers at Emma. "Hey, sweetheart, get over here," he called out. Emma's hands gripped her order pad so tight her knuckles turned white. She walked over slowly. "What can I get you?" she asked quietly. Derek leaned back and looked her up and down like she was something he owned. "That's a nasty bruise on your face," he said with a fake concerned voice. "You should be more careful walking into doors." His crew laughed. Emma said nothing. She kept her eyes on her pad. "I asked you a question," Derek said, and his voice turned sharp. "Aren't you going to answer me?" Emma nodded quickly. "Yes, I'll be more careful," she whispered. Derek smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Good girl. Now bring us 5 coffees and whatever breakfast special you got. And make it fast." Emma nodded again and hurried back to the kitchen. Isaiah had heard enough. He had watched enough. Every muscle in his body wanted to walk over to that booth and teach those 5 punks some respect. But he had learned patience in the military. You don't rush into battle without knowing the terrain. He finished his coffee and left a $20 bill on the table for a $6 breakfast. As he walked out, he caught Emma's eye for just a second. He gave her a small nod. She looked confused, but something in her scared eyes changed. Maybe it was hope. Isaiah spent the rest of the day asking questions around town. The guy at the hardware store told him about the Crimson Crew. The lady at the post office told him about Derek's uncle, the sheriff. The old man at the gas station told him about the 3 girls who left town in the past 2 years because of Derek and his boys. "They target the ones with no family," the old man said, shaking his head. "Emma's parents died in a car crash 5 years ago. She's got nobody. Those boys have been making her life hell for 6 months now." Isaiah thanked him and drove back to his room. He sat on his bed in the dark, thinking about what to do. Wednesday morning, Isaiah was back at Ruby's diner at 6 o'clock sharp. Emma was working the early shift. Her bruises looked darker today. She moved carefully like everything hurt. When she came to pour his coffee, Isaiah spoke quietly. "My name is Isaiah Carter," he said. "I'm new in town and I don't know many people yet. But I want you to know something, Emma." She looked startled that he knew her name. "If you ever need help, you can call me. I'm staying above the hardware store. Room number 4, I mean that." Emma's eyes filled with tears. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Finally she whispered, "You don't understand. They'll hurt you too. They hurt everyone who tries to help." Isaiah smiled gently. "I'm harder to hurt than I look," he said. "Just remember what I said." Emma nodded and walked away quickly. Isaiah could see her wiping her eyes by the coffee station. 3 days passed quietly. Isaiah came to the diner every morning and Emma served him coffee. They didn't talk much, but he always left a big tip. On Saturday night, Isaiah was walking back from the lumber yard when he heard shouting. He followed the sound to the alley behind Ruby's diner. What he saw made his blood boil. Derek had Emma pushed against the brick wall. One hand was around her throat and the other was pulling at her uniform. Jake and Tommy stood nearby laughing. Emma was crying and trying to push Derek away, but he was too strong. "Please stop," she begged. "Please, Derek. I said I was sorry." Derek sneered. "Sorry isn't good enough anymore, sweetheart. You've been avoiding me all week. That hurts my feelings." His hand tightened around her throat. Isaiah didn't think. He just moved. 20 years of military training kicked in. He crossed the alley in 4 long strides and grabbed Derek's shoulder. "Let her go," Isaiah said in a voice that could freeze fire. Derek spun around angry until he saw who was standing there. Isaiah towered over him like a mountain. Derek tried to act tough. "This ain't your business, old man," he said. "Walk away before you get hurt." Isaiah didn't move. "I said let her go," he repeated. Jake and Tommy moved closer, trying to look threatening. Isaiah just stared at them. He had faced down enemy soldiers with machine guns. 3 small town punks didn't scare him. Derek finally released Emma, and she slumped against the wall, gasping for air. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," Derek said, pointing at Isaiah. "Nobody disrespects the Crimson Crew. Nobody." Isaiah stepped between Derek and Emma. "Then I guess I'm nobody," he said calmly. "Now get out of here before I make you leave." The 3 men looked at each other. They weren't used to people standing up to them. Derek's face turned red with anger. "This ain't over," he spat. "We know where you live. We know where you work. You better watch your back, giant." They walked away, but Derek looked back twice. When they were gone, Isaiah turned to Emma. She was shaking and crying. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Emma shook her head. "You shouldn't have done that," she sobbed. "You don't know what they're capable of. They're going to come after you now. They're going to hurt you because of me." Isaiah gently put his hand on her shoulder. "Listen to me, Emma. I've been hurt before. I've been scared before. But I learned something important in the military. Evil wins when good people do nothing. I'm done doing nothing, and you should be too." Emma looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. "I'm so tired," she whispered. "I'm so tired of being afraid. I'm so tired of being alone." Isaiah helped Emma to her car. She lived in a tiny apartment above the laundromat on Oak Street. He followed her home to make sure she got there safely. "Lock your door tonight," he told her. "If anything happens, you call me. I mean it." Emma nodded. "Thank you, Isaiah," she said. "Nobody has ever stood up for me before. Nobody has ever cared." Isaiah smiled sadly. "Everybody deserves someone who cares," he said. "You're not alone anymore." He waited until he heard her lock click before he walked back to his room. He knew Derek and his crew would come for him. He wasn't afraid. He had faced worse. What he didn't expect was how fast they would move. Sunday morning at 3 o'clock, Isaiah woke up to the sound of breaking glass. 5 figures stood in his room. Derek and his whole crew had come. They had baseball bats and crowbars. "Surprise," Derek said, grinning. "Told you we knew where you lived." They attacked all at once. The room was too small for Isaiah to use his size advantage. A bat hit his ribs. A crowbar struck his shoulder. He fought back hard. His military training took over. He grabbed Jake and threw him into Tommy. He punched Rick so hard the man flew backward into the dresser. But 5 against 1 was too much even for someone like Isaiah. Derek hit him across the back with the bat, and Isaiah went down on one knee. They kicked him and hit him until he couldn't move. "That's what you get for disrespecting us," Derek said, breathing hard. "Next time, mind your own business." They left him bleeding on the floor. Isaiah lay there for a long time. Every part of his body hurt. His ribs were probably cracked. His eye was swelling shut. Blood dripped from a cut above his eyebrow. He thought about staying down. He thought about leaving town like so many others had done. But then he thought about Emma's face when she thanked him. He thought about her tears when she said nobody had ever cared. He thought about all the other girls Derek and his crew had hurt. Slowly, painfully, Isaiah pushed himself to his feet. He looked in the broken mirror at his battered face. "Not done yet," he said out loud. He cleaned himself up as best he could, and at 6 o'clock he walked to Ruby's diner, just like always. When Emma saw him walk through the door, she gasped. His face was black and blue. He moved like every step hurt. She rushed over to him. "Oh my God, Isaiah, what did they do to you?" She cried. Tears ran down her face. "I'm so sorry. This is all my fault." Isaiah sat down carefully in his usual booth. "This isn't your fault, Emma," he said firmly. "This is their fault. And we're going to stop them." Emma shook her head frantically. "How? Nobody can stop them. The police won't help. The sheriff protects them. If we fight back, they'll kill us." Isaiah looked at her with his one good eye. "Then I guess we better make sure we don't fight alone," he said. "How many other people in this town have they hurt, Emma? How many others are scared like you?" Emma thought about it. "There's Mrs. Chun at the grocery store. They make her pay protection money or they'll smash her windows. There's Mr. Rodriguez at the mechanic shop. They slashed his tires when he refused to fix their cars for free. There's Jennifer who used to work here. Derek hurt her so bad she left town and never came back. And there's at least a dozen more." Isaiah nodded slowly. "That's what I thought. Derek and his crew act tough, but they're cowards. They only pick on people who are alone. But what if we weren't alone anymore? What if everyone they hurt stood together?" Emma's eyes widened. "You want to organize people against them?" "Isaiah, that's dangerous. Isaiah smiled despite the pain. So was jumping out of helicopters in the desert. I did that for people I never met. Why wouldn't I do this for neighbors? For the first time in months, Emma felt something she thought was dead inside her. She felt hope. Over the next 2 weeks, Isaiah and Emma worked quietly. They talked to everyone the Crimson Crew had hurt. At first, people were scared. "We can't fight them," Mrs. Chun said. "They're too powerful." But Isaiah was patient. "We're not fighting them," he explained. "We're just refusing to be afraid anymore. There's power in that." Slowly, people started to listen. Mr. Rodriguez agreed to help. So did Mrs. Chun. So did the manager of the bank who Derek had threatened. So did the coach at the high school whose daughter Derek had harassed. One by one, they built a group of 23 people who were tired of living in fear. Isaiah taught them something he learned in military. "Individual drops of water are weak," he said. "But together they make an ocean. Together we're strong." They planned carefully. Isaiah contacted a state police detective he knew from his military days. The man agreed to investigate Derek's crew if they could gather evidence. Emma remembered that Derek liked to brag when he was drunk. She started recording him on her phone when he came into the diner. Mr. Rodriguez installed a hidden camera at his shop and caught them demanding protection. Money. Mrs. Chun recorded them threatening her. Piece by piece they built a case. But they needed more. They needed something big. That's when Emma had a dangerous idea. What if I wore a wire and got Derek to confess? She suggested. Isaiah immediately said no. Too dangerous. If he finds out, he'll kill you. But Emma was determined. This has to end, Isaiah. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of hiding. You taught me that evil wins when good people do nothing. Let me do something. The plan was simple but risky. Emma would agree to meet Derek alone at the old warehouse on Miller Road. She would wear a wire and get him to talk about all the crimes he had committed. The state police would be listening nearby, ready to move in. Isaiah would be hidden close by in case anything went wrong. The night before the meeting, Isaiah sat with Emma at the diner after closing time. "You don't have to do this," he said gently. "We can find another way." Emma shook her head. "Yes, I do. For the first time in my life, I'm not afraid. You gave me that, Isaiah. You showed me I was worth protecting. Now I want to show other people they're worth protecting too." Isaiah felt a lump in his throat. This scared young waitress had found her courage. "You're one of the bravest people I've ever met," he told her. "And I've met a lot of brave people." Emma smiled. "I learned from the best." Friday night came fast. Emma drove to the old warehouse with her heart pounding. The wire was taped to her chest under her shirt. The state police were parked a quarter-mile away listening. Isaiah was hidden in the shadows near the warehouse entrance. Derek was already there, waiting with his whole crew. Emma took a deep breath and walked inside. "I'm glad you finally came to your senses," Derek said, smiling that cold smile. "You belong with someone who can protect you." Emma forced herself to stay calm. "I need to know something first," she said. "I need to know if you're serious about me, or if I'm just another girl you're playing with like Jennifer." Derek laughed. "Jennifer? That stupid girl ran her mouth too much. We had to teach her a lesson. Same thing we did to that Martinez girl last year. Same thing we'll do to anyone who disrespects us." He kept talking. The wire caught everything. He bragged about the protection rackets. He bragged about the beatings. He even bragged about bribing his uncle, the sheriff. Emma felt sick, but she kept him talking. Then Derek stepped closer. Too close. "Now that we got that settled, how about you show me some appreciation?" he said, reaching for her. Emma stepped back. "Actually, Derek, I think you showed me enough," she said. Derek's eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" That's when the state police kicked in the warehouse doors. "Police, nobody move!" they shouted. Derek's face went white. He looked at Emma and understood. "You wore a wire." He screamed. "You stupid girl, you wore a wire." He lunged at her, but Isaiah appeared out of the shadows like an avenging angel. He caught Derek's arm and twisted it behind his back. "Touch her and I'll break it," Isaiah growled. The police arrested all 5 members of the Crimson Crew. The state detective told Emma she had been incredibly brave. "The recording you got is enough to put them away for years," he said. "You did good, young lady." Derek's uncle, the sheriff, tried to interfere, but the state police had evidence of his corruption too. He was arrested the same night. As the police cars drove away with Derek and his crew, Emma collapsed. All the fear and tension of the past months came pouring out. She sobbed in Isaiah's arms while he held her gently. "It's over," he whispered. "You're safe now. You're free." Emma looked up at him. "We're free," she corrected. "We all are." The next few weeks were amazing. Word spread fast about what happened. People who had been silent for years started coming forward with their own stories about the Crimson Crew. The evidence piled up. Derek and his crew were charged with extortion, assault, drug dealing, and a dozen other crimes. The trial was quick. All 5 men were sentenced to 15 to 20 years in prison. Derek's uncle got 10 years. The whole town felt different. People smiled more. They walked with their heads up. Ruby's diner was packed every day with people who wanted to hear Emma's story. She became a local hero. But she always said the same thing. "Isaiah is the real hero. He showed me I was worth saving. He showed all of us we're worth saving." Isaiah didn't see himself as a hero. He was just a man who did what was right. But the town disagreed. They threw him a celebration dinner at the community center. Over 200 people came. Mr. Peterson gave a speech. "Isaiah came to our town as a stranger. He had no reason to help us. He had every reason to mind his own business and stay safe. But he didn't. He stood up when nobody else would. He taught us that one person can make a difference. He taught us that courage is contagious." The crowd applauded. Isaiah felt embarrassed by all the attention. But when Emma got up to speak, he listened carefully. "6 months ago I wanted to disappear," Emma said to the crowd. Her voice was strong now. No more trembling. No more fear. "I thought I was worthless. I thought I deserved the pain because I had nobody to tell me different. Then a giant of a man sat in my diner and showed me something I had forgotten. He showed me I mattered. He showed me I was worth protecting. But more than that, he showed me I was strong enough to protect myself. Isaiah didn't save me. He taught me to save myself. And then he stood beside me while I did it." Tears ran down her face, but she was smiling. That's real love. That's real heroism. Not doing everything for someone, but showing them they can do it themselves. The crowd stood and applauded. Isaiah wiped his own eyes. After the dinner, Isaiah and Emma sat on the bench outside the community center. The stars were bright above them. "What are you going to do now?" Emma asked. Isaiah had been thinking about that. For 20 years he had drifted from place to place, never settling down. But something had changed. "I think I'm going to stay here in Millbrook," he said. "I like this town. I like the people. Plus someone needs to make sure you stay out of trouble." Emma laughed. It was a real laugh, full of joy. "Actually, I've been thinking," she said. "Mrs. Peterson wants to retire, and Mr. Peterson asked if I wanted to buy Ruby's diner. I said yes. I'm going to own my own business, Isaiah. Me, the scared girl with no family and no future, is going to be a business owner." Isaiah grinned. "That's amazing, Emma. You deserve all the good things coming your way." Emma looked at him seriously. "None of this would have happened without you. You know that, right? You changed my life, Isaiah Carter. You changed this whole town. Isaiah shook his head. No, Emma, you changed your own life. I just reminded you how strong you already were. That strength was always inside you. You just needed someone to believe in you until you could believe in yourself. They sat in comfortable silence watching the stars. Emma thought about how different her life was now. She wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't alone anymore. She had friends and purpose and hope. She had a future. Isaiah thought about all the years he spent running from his past. He thought about all the pain and loss he had seen. For the first time in a long time, he felt peace. He had found a home. He had found a purpose. Sometimes the battles you fight aren't overseas in foreign lands. Sometimes they're right in your own backyard. Sometimes the enemy isn't a soldier with a gun. Sometimes it's fear and cruelty and the silence of good people who are too scared to act. But when one person finds the courage to stand up, others follow. Courage really is contagious. 6 months later, Ruby's diner was thriving under Emma's ownership. She hired 2 other young women who needed jobs and support. She created a safe space where people looked out for each other. Isaiah still came every morning for coffee. He and Emma had become best friends. The town had changed too. People started a neighborhood watch. They started a support group for victims of crime. They started looking out for each other instead of looking away. The ripple effect of one man's courage and one woman's bravery had transformed an entire community. Mrs. Chun stopped by the diner one morning and hugged Emma. "Thank you for giving us our town back," she said. Emma hugged her back. "We gave it back together," she replied. Isaiah learned something important during his time in Millbrook. He learned that healing doesn't just happen to one person. It spreads. When you help someone find their strength, they help others find theirs. When you stand up against darkness, you light a candle that helps others see. Every act of courage matters. Every kind word matters. Every time you choose to help instead of looking away, you change the world a little bit. It doesn't take superpowers to be a hero. It just takes heart. Isaiah had plenty of that. So did Emma. So did everyone in Millbrook who found their voice and stood together. 1 year after that night in the alley, Emma stood in front of the town council with a proposal. She wanted to start a foundation to help abuse victims. She wanted to create safe houses and support systems and legal aid. Too many people suffer in silence because they think nobody cares, she told the council. I was one of those people. But Isaiah showed me somebody did care. Now I want to show others. I want to be someone's Isaiah. The council approved her proposal unanimously. The foundation was named Giant Hearts in honor of the big man who started it all. Isaiah was embarrassed but proud. Emma was becoming exactly what she was meant to be. A leader. A helper. A hero. The story of Isaiah and Emma spread beyond Millbrook. News stations came to interview them. Magazine articles were written. But they never let the attention change them. They stayed humble and focused on helping others. Isaiah continued working at the lumber yard and eating breakfast at Ruby's diner. Emma continued running her restaurant and building her foundation. They showed everyone that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they choose courage over fear. They showed that real strength isn't about muscles or violence. It's about standing up when it's easier to stay down. It's about speaking up when it's safer to stay quiet. It's about caring when it's simpler to look away. 5 years later, Isaiah stood beside Emma at her wedding. She was marrying a kind teacher named David, who treated her like the treasure she was. Isaiah walked her down the aisle since she had no father to do it. As he placed her hand in David's, Emma whispered, "Thank you for everything." Isaiah whispered back, "Thank you for reminding me why the fight matters." After the ceremony at the reception, Isaiah gave a toast. "I came to Millbrook broken and searching for peace. Instead, I found purpose. Emma taught me that saving someone isn't about being their hero. It's about believing in them until they remember they're their own hero. She saved herself. She saved this town. And in a way, she saved me too. Everyone applauded. Emma hugged him tight. The legacy of that one act of courage in an alley behind a diner continued to grow. The Giant Hearts Foundation helped hundreds of abuse victims over the years. Many of them went on to help others. The cycle of pain became a cycle of healing. Millbrook became known as a town that stood together. A town where nobody was alone. A town where people cared. And it all started because one man saw a frightened waitress with bruises on her face and decided not to look away. Because one woman found the courage to stand up and reclaim her life. Because two people showed everyone else that change is possible when ordinary people do extraordinary things. That's the real miracle. Not that heroes exist, but that heroes are made every day in small towns and big cities, by people who simply refuse to let darkness win. People like Isaiah Carter. People like Emma Thompson. People like you.